Hello everybody, welcome to this wonderful reading of Zoya's Welcome. So basically in this reading it's going to go for April 25th to April 27th of 2025. So basically in this wonderful tarot reading that I'm going to provide you, basically it's going to inform me about what's happening in this situation. Basically it's going to be how it's going to be in one way or another, and this is how it is in one way in that way of how it goes. This is a way of how it's going to be in that way, because you have to understand what's going on, and, understand about what it takes, understand about how it is, right? When things go a different way, you have to look at them from a different perspective, because the way of how this is like how you're going to understand of how it's going to be, and you're thinking, well, this is how it's going to be. I'm going to improve myself, wisely. There are circumstances that you must learn first in order to understand that and understand about how you can, significantly of how it's going to be. You have to put yourself into perspective, put into someone else's shoes. But you know what I mean, right? Basically, the point being is that you have to remember society. You have to remember about how it's going to be, right? Because you're thinking that everything is going to be all great and how it is. It's going to be like all solitude. It's going to be very, how very it is, right? You think that everything is all kind of like, how it is, and when you believe that, you have to believe in one of the circumstances. You believe what's true. You have to believe what's happening in that, module of how everything is in the situations. There are things that you must learn first. In order to do that, you have to accept them on the way how they are, the way how you can prove themselves, and the way of how this is. You need to have dignity, self-respect. You have to acknowledge what's going on. You have to understand that, because in that theory, you have to think, okay, well, this is the way it is. I got this. Yes, but does it remain that you understand that, right? Because when you penetrate the situation, you know what it is. You know how it seems to be. You have to pay attention to it. That's what it is. But that's how it goes. All right. So in this oracle card that I'm going to read you is growth. I want to expand my consciousness and my awareness. That's the way it goes, because you have to understand that when you have your own growth, you have your own, how it is, or how you're feeling, how you're understanding. When your growth, that's the way it goes, right? If you're planting a tree, if you're planting whatever, growth is like you need water, you need nutrients, you need everything, right? That's what it seems to be, right? And when you have to have your own progression, your own way of how it seems to be, you got this. You have to understand that. Because when you have growth, you pay attention to what's going on in that situation, whether you like it or not. But that's how it is, right? So when you have growth, you have the ability to understand that from the right and wrong perspective. That's the way it seems to be. But you have to come clean in order to do that. That's the way it goes, right? So you understand that. So in this wonderful tarot card reading that I'm going to provide you, that's the way it seems to be in this way. So, this is not going to be an all signs reading. It's not. But the way of how this is, the way of how I'm going to coordinate of how it's going to be, this is the way it seems to be. You have to pay attention on whether you like it or not, but it's based on that. It's based on how you're feeling, based on how you're going to recommend. That's the way it seems to be in that way. So basically, you're going to look at from one card, and we're going to see what's going on in that situation, right? That's why it seems to be, because you have to improve yourself wisely to understand that, right? That's the way it seems to be. So let's see what's going on. So the way of how this is, going to be, you have the Hierophant. And the Hierophant means that you have guidance, okay? So when you have guidance, you don't know which direction you're going to take, left or right. But when you have guidance, you pay attention to it. Now, you have guidance, right? You pay attention about what you're going to be doing in your own way of how you can do it, your own circumstances. That's the way it seems to be. You have to improve yourself wisely to get there, right? Now, you have to think about how it's going to be in that way, and you're thinking, well, this is the way it seems to be. So I'm going to figure out what's going on the left side, what's in the middle, what's on right. So the moon is upright, followed with the hermit is upright, followed with the seven of wands is upright. Yeah, you're feeling resilience. You want to have a soulmate. Maybe you're going to look for solitude. and the moon is upright, there's misrotations. That's why it kind of goes, because in that way, you're thinking, well, this is the way it goes. I need to improve myself wisely. I need to get the way of how it is, right? That's why it seems to be. Because you pay attention. You pay attention to what works, what doesn't, right? That's the way it goes, right? Because you're thinking, all right, I know what to do. I got this. This is the way it seems to be. I got this. Yes, but you have to pay attention on how it's going to be in that way. Give it long term, give it short term. It doesn't matter. But the way of how this is, you pay attention on what's going on in that situation, whether you like it or not. Right? That's the way it seems to be. So what's happening on the right side, please? The Six of Wands is upright, followed by the Fool is upright, followed with the Magician reverse, followed by the Seven of Cups reverse, followed with the Ace of Wands reverse, followed with the Justice reverse. You're not telling the truth. But the Page of Cups is upright because you want loyalty. Yeah, you want loyalty. You want things to be going your way. That's the way it goes. But you could be paying attention to another Leo, Aries, Sagittarius. You could deal with another Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, as water signs, fire signs. That's the way it goes. The Fool is upright because you're going to change that. That's the way it seems to be in that way. This is like almost like a centerpiece. But you're thinking, well, why is it? Why I need to have this? How this extinguished situation. That's the way it goes, right? Because it's suspicious. You have suspicious behaviors. You have suspicious things that you need to be going on and off the rails, whatever it is. But then you're thinking, well, this is the way it seems to be. I know what to do. I got this. But it's like, well, this is how it seems to be, right? So you have your own circumstances, or whether you like it or not, but things will change, right? That's why it seems to be, because you pay attention to it. Because in that way you're thinking, well, this is the way it seems to be. I know what to do, but this is the way it goes. This is the way it goes. So this is the way it seems to be. Now let's see what's going on. So I'm gonna go from the middle to the left, middle to the right. So we have the Eight of Pentacles is upright, followed the Fool is upright, followed the Strength card reverse, followed by the Five of Swords is upright. Yeah, see, there is conflict here. So you have conflict and change at the same time. The Strength card reverse, you have no strength left. You're thinking, well, this is not going to end well. It's not, because when you're focusing about your conflict, you're not getting along, you're not whatever, you're picking fights, you don't like it. You want change, you want everything else, you want everything to be going your way. Yes, it is. But then it's like, why are you feeling like this? Why you're having all these circumstances? Because you're thinking about it. You're thinking about outside the box, right? You're inside the box, but you're worrying about it, whatever. But if you're getting outside the box, you know what it is, right? You're seeing the light. You're seeing at the light at the end of the tunnel. That's why it seems to be. Because you're paying attention on what works, what doesn't. That's the way it seems to be. So let's have something between the middle and the right side. Nine of Pentacles reversed, followed with the World reversed, followed with the Devil reversed, followed with the Nine of Swords reversed, followed with the Five of Wands is upright. Yeah, because there's chaos, right? You're not feeling uncomfortable. Like, you're feeling uncomfortable, you know what I mean? Like, everything is in completion. Everything is not going as planned. Everything is not going your way. You're thinking, well, this is not going to end well. It's not, because you're focusing on that. You're focusing what's going on in that situation, right? Because that's the way it goes. What's happening between the middle and the left side, please? The Fool is upright, followed with the Lovers reverse, followed with the Justice reverse, followed with the Star reverse, followed with the Tower is upright. Yeah, because everything is transformation. Everything is changing. That's the way it goes. The Fool is upright, we're going to change. That's the way it goes, because you're going to change in that way. You're thinking, well, this is the way it seems to be. I got this. It's like, yeah, you do, but it doesn't make sense. That's why it seems to be. So let's have something between the Lovers and the Justice, please. The Temperance reverse, followed the Words upright. Yeah, because you want everything is completed. Everything is going to go exactly that direction. You're thinking, well, this is the way it goes. I know what to do. I'm going to emphasize on where I'm going. That's the way it goes. Because when you look at this, you're thinking, well, this is the way it seems to be. I know what to do. But it's like, well, not necessarily. Because if things are going to go your way, fine. If things are not going your way, it's not going to end well. Right? you're thinking, okay, well, too late, I need to leave, or too late, I don't want to do this anymore. That's why it seems to be that. Because there's things are not going as planned, things are not going your way. You're thinking, well, this is not going to end well. It's not. Because you're not focusing on that. You're not focusing about what was happening in that way, or in that dialogue, or whatever it is. That's the way it seems to be. What's happening between the middle and the right side, please? The star is upright, you want inspiration. The emperor is upright, you want structure. The fool reversed. The strength are reversed. But the justice is upright. Yeah, because you're telling the truth. Yeah, because if you're lying about something on the other side, on the left side, and on the right side you're telling the truth, there are two things are happening. One's lying, one's telling the truth. That's just like how it seems to be, right? Because you're thinking about the 5 W's. Is who, what, where, when, why, in that situation. That's why it seems to be that. Because you're thinking, well, I need to prove myself wisely. I know what to do, because that's the way it seems to be. You're thinking, well, I need to do this. I need to prove myself wisely. I got this. Yes, but it doesn't make sense. Doesn't make any sense because, that's how it is, right? And when things go a different direction, or, that's the way it seems to be, you're improving yourself, how you can do it. How you can understand the way how it works in that way, right? You're thinking, well, this is the way it seems to be. So let's see what the universe is saying. So what's happening between the middle and the left? The middle to the right. Ace of Cups reversed. Okay. King Wands is upright. And the King Pentacles reversed. So it means that the King of Wands represents passion. It could be that. But you could be dealing with another Leo, Aries, Sagittarius. The Ace of Cups reversed, there's not a romance situation in that situation. And that's the way it goes. And on the right side, there's the King Pentacles reversed. You're not feeling any security. But there are things that you must learn first in order to do that. In order to understand about how you can emphasize of how you're feeling in that way, right? You're thinking, well, this is the way it seems to be. Maybe I just don't know what to do, and this is how in advance of how this is going to be. So let's see what's going on. So let's see what's going on for the left side, shall we? 9 Pentacles reversed, followed by 3 Pentacles reversed, followed by the 5 Pentacles is upright, followed by the King Wands is upright. Yeah, because you want to have passion, you want to do whatever you want. 5 Pentacles is upright because you're looking for money. That's the way it goes. That's the way it seems to be. And the 9 Pentacles reversed, you're feeling uncomfortable. That's why it seems to be. Because you have to think about how you can understand that in one way or another. You're thinking, well, I want to feel like this. I got this. I don't want to intervene. That's why it seems to be in that way. Right? That's the way it seems to be. What's happening in the middle here? The 10 Pentacles is upright, followed the Emperor is upright, followed the Death card is upright. Yeah, because you want endings to come up. You want structure, you want money, because that's the way it goes, right? Because when you're focusing on a Scorpio, you're focusing on Scorpio. You could be focusing on Virgo, Capricorn, or Taurus, as zodiac signs as well, as zero signs, and you pay attention about that. That's why it seems to be, because you're trying to improve yourself wisely to get the better of that, to see whatever you want in order to understand the process of how you can do it. That's why it seems to be, right? Because that's the way it goes. What's happening on the right side, please? The 10 of Wands reversed, the 2 of Wands reversed, the 8 Pentacles is upright, because you're looking for more of your career. What's happening with this 2 of Wands here? The 10 of Swords is upright, yeah, because you want to have basically conclusions, right? It's like, why am I having all these conclusions? Why are things not going my way? Because everything is not going your way, right? Because you're thinking about, well, I want to see it. I do want to understand this, This is the way it seems to be because you're trying to improve yourself wisely, to get the better of you, to see the new you, not the old you, the new you. That's why it seems to be that. Because you're thinking, well, I don't want to procrastinate. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be fooled. I don't want to be messed up. That's the way it goes. But circumstances are continuing. It's a continuation process of how it is, right? You gradually knowing what to do next, right? Because you're taking a step-in-step, situation, right? You're going up like a staircase. You're going up and up and up until you reach your level. From level 1 to level 10, whatever it is. But that's how it seems to be, right? Because you need to understand about how you can do it in one or another. That's why it seems to be. Let's see what the universe is saying. So that's going on for the left side, the middle, and the right. A pentacle is upright, so there's perfection. What's in the middle? Two swords is upright, so you're at the crossroads. What's on the right side? The King of Cups reversed, there's no support. Alright, so what's happening on the left side here for this perfection? The 8 of Wands reversed, there's no speed. The 6 of Wands reversed, there's no achievement. But the High Priest is upright because you're using your inner voice. That's the way it goes, right? Because when you have no speed, you're thinking, well, why I'm having this issue? Why are things are not going my way? Because that's the way it goes. You're thinking that this is like pins and needles at the point, because you're thinking, well, I need to have my own inner voice. I need to pay attention to it. That's why it seems to be that. Because you're thinking, well, I'll take it from here. I'll take it from whoever else. That's why it seems to be. Because you're improving yourself wisely to get the better of you, because in that way, in that circumstance, you know what goes in that way, and you're thinking, well, this is the way it seems to be. I know what to do. Now, what's happening at this crossroads? Let's see who is on the left side. Okay, so Page of Cups reversed, there's no loyalty. Who's on the right side? So you have planning. Okay, what's happening with this loyalty? The 8 of Swords is upright. Yeah, because anxiety. Yeah, because you're feeling sad, you're whimpering. That's the way it goes. You want a plan of attack. Whatever it is, right? Because, whatever hurts you, or wherever someone else is hurting you, whatever it is, you're trying to back away from it. You're trying to back away about the negativity. Or you're trying to back off like someone was being mean or rude or disrespectful to you. Whatever it is, but you know what it seems to be, right? So it's like that's just the way it goes, right? So, I could be talking about a cross-watcher here. It doesn't matter. But you know what I mean, right? So that's how it is. You could be dealing with another Gemini, the Aquarius. You deal with another Leo, Aries, Sagittarius. That's the way it goes, right? That's why it needs to be that. Clear and simple. That's the way it seems to be. What's happening what's happening with this King of Cups here on the right side? The 10 of Wands is over, there's burdens. The Page of Wands reversed, there's no invention. The Hammer reversed, there's no restrictions. The Temperance reversed, there's no healing. The 3 of Wands is over, there's communication. Yeah, because after when this is all over for you, you're going to communicate. You're going to communicate and say, alright, well, this is the way it goes. This is never going to happen. I don't want to go this. I don't want to, have this fear of saying I'm not going to do this ever again. That's the way it seems to be. So what's happening on the left side, the middle, and the right? So let's see what's going on. So on the left side we have the 7 of Waters, a complex decision, the need to do research, stop procrastinating. Yeah, stop to put things in the back burner. It's very ridiculous. When you put things in the back burner, you leave them there, right? You need to apologize, you need to accept on how it is, you need to do what you can. Because when you have conflict, things are not going as planned. You're thinking, well, this is the way it goes. I don't want to do this anymore. Because it doesn't make any sense. You're having nonsense, right? You need to have your own way of saying, alright, well, this is the way it goes. This is the way it happens. So, you can be dealing with another Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio as water signs, as zodiac signs on the left side. What's happening in the middle? You have the Knight of Earth, loyal, dedicated, honorable, kind. Time to buckle down, get things done. honor your commitments, a guardian angel. Yeah, because you could be doing that as a way of how it is. You need to figure out what's going on in that situation. So you could be dealing with either Virgo, Capricorn, or Taurus as a Earth signs, and you pay attention to it. Right, that's the way it goes in that way, and that's how it seems to be in that understanding about how it is in that way. Okay. What's happening on the right side? Yeah, the Ace of Earth is the inflow of abundance, a promising business adventure, important documents or contracts. That's the way it goes, right? Because you'd be looking for a business, or maybe you're going to be looking for contracts, or whatever it is. You need to figure out about how you can pay attention about what's going on in that situation, whether you need to plan on how you can understand about giving back of the community or whatever it is, because you need to understand that, right? Because you have to knowing about what's going on in that way, and you think, well, this is the way it seems to be. I know what to do. I got this. But it's like, well, how does it make sense? How you're feeling it in one way or another, but that's how it is, right? Because you return the favor. That's the way it goes, right? That's the way it seems to be. So you could be doing it in the Virgo, Capricorn, or Taurus as zodiac signs, as Earth signs. And what's happening here? Who's on the left? Who's in the middle? Who's on the right? So what's happening on the left side? The hungry ghost. Obsessions, scarcity, consciousness, or attachment. That's the way it goes, right? Because you're thinking that there could be obsessions, or there could be attachment, or whatever it is. Because you could be attaching to a procrastinating, because that's the way it goes. When you procrastinate, you put things on the back burner, right? Because you leave them there until further notice, or whatever it is. Because you're trying to, give what it takes. You get what you want. You know what it is, right? So you're trying to figure out how I can do this, how I can pay attention, how I can get what I need to do, right? That's the way it seems to be. Because you pay attention, right? That's why it seems to be. So, the way of how this is, you do what you can, but then you understand about how you can be understanding what's going on in that way. Okay? What's happening on the middle side? The Queen of the Light. Illumination, enlightenment, or celebration. Yeah, so you could be feeling like where you're feeling like you maybe have celebration, or you could be in enlightenment or illumination. It doesn't matter. But the way of how this is, you have to pay attention to whether you like it or not, whether you have being sincere, or do what it takes, because you pay attention to how you're feeling. That's why it seems to be. So you could be paying attention whether you decided, but that's the way it goes, right? Because you have to give the information, you're going to take the information, or you're going to pay attention, whatever it is. But that's how it seems to be in that way. So you could be dealing with the feminine as a woman situation of one of the earth signs. It could be Virgo, Capricorn, or Taurus. What's happening on the right side? The lead of the gift. Generosity, receiving, withholding. Yeah, so you could be having generosity. Maybe you're going to be receiving. Maybe you're going to be feeling like there was everything okay. But then it's like, well, the way how this is, the way how I'm feeling, the way how it needs to be, that's the way it goes. Because you pay attention to what I need, or what I'm going to do, whatever it is. Because you pay attention. That's why it says, it's like, there's nothing to say that there's, the way of how this is. You believe what it takes. You believe about how you can do it in that understanding. Because that's the way it goes, right? You forgive and you forget. But the way of how it is, you're doubting about what's going to be doing next. That's why it seems to be. So you could be focusing on another feminine as another woman. So it could be another Virgo, Capricorn, or Taurus as another earth signs, as zodiac signs. Okay? Let's see what I'll be reading you. Let's see. Do you want to hear my beautiful voice? let's see what's going on here. Let me try to read you about this. Alright. Number 40. Follow the leader. Ooh, this is a good one too. This is a good one. Alright. It says here. Ready? Here we go. Follow the leader. Every life is a teaching tool for others. Your authenticity and honesty are an example to those around you. Alright, here we go. The upright, it says, you're being called to lead others by example. Your wisdom has been earned as a result of your bravery in the adventure of your life. The experiences of battles won and lost, places discovered, tears shed, and joy revealed have placed you in a unique position to be of service to others. Your suffering has been crystallized into a talisman of wisdom. Now you must share it. By being fully authentic, you'll lead others into the light. You'll be required to divulge some things about your past so that you may help someone else. Lead with love. There is another message here as well. Look at those whose great character and accomplishments you admire. Emulate the leaders you respect. You will then, in return, have more to offer. So basically what it means is that you're following the leader, right? You're basically opening about another way of expressing about how you're feeling, the way of how it is, right? You need to be in a good position. That's the way it goes. When you're in a good position, you pay attention to what's going on in that way because you're focusing on what's going on in that way. You're trying to understand about how it is in that way. You're thinking, well, this is the way it seems to be, right? That's what it is. Because you're into a good position. You're trying to figure out how I can understand this and say, well, this is the way it goes. This is the way it happens. That's the way it goes. I need to understand this, right? So when you have your own ways of how you're feeling, that's the way it goes, right? Because you're trying to have your own service. You're trying to believe about that. But that's how it is. So, before I let you go, try to pay attention about what's going on in that way. Trying to understand what's going on in that perspective. That's why it seems to be. That's why it needs to be in that position. That's the way how you're feeling, how you want it, how everything is, right? Because this is the way it seems to be. You're trying to do what you can to improve yourself wisely and do what you can. So you have to have your own respect, your own beliefs, your own ways of saying, alright, well, this is the way it goes, this is the way it happens, right? When you have that, you have your own provided service because you do what you can. You do what seems to be in that way, and you're thinking, well, the way how this is, I need to prove myself wisely to get what I want, to get how I can do it, how I can provide this, how I can understand that. That's what it seems to be. You need to understand how it is in one or another. So I hope you all like this video. Please give a like, please give a comment, enjoy, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Have a good day to all, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye for now. Really, thank you, and bye.